Hi Aries, here's a general look at your solar chart for June 2012, and this month up until the 21st in particular, but even beyond the 21st you're going to be probably running around more, socializing, connecting, corresponding, perhaps having to spend more time on the phone or over the wires in other ways, over the net, more paperwork, that kind of thing, because every year at this time the Sun comes into this very strong communication sector of your chart. So it could be about mundane communications, or it could be about something more fun, like creative self-expression. But this year there's a huge amount going on in that area for you, and Venus is also there, which is altogether good news because it can make you more articulate and persuasive. It can make you feel like you're getting good feedback from others, which is great news. But Venus is going to be retrograde until the 27th. It still will work in your favor, but just needs a little bit more. You've got to work it a bit more. You've got to be more patient, and I know that's not your strongest point, but you just have to be more patient and maybe work a bit harder at relationships or harder at correspondence or paperwork, you see. But you're likely to get the help that you need. You're likely to get the feedback that you've been looking for, the encouragement from others, the help, from others with all of this. And then from the 27th it goes direct anyway, and so you start to whiz forward more easily. The last 2 days of the month and the first 2 days of July actually are really quite, there's potential there, there's good potential there for things to kind of go more as you'd like them to be. This transit of Venus could favourably connect you also with siblings or with people that you consider to be soul brothers and sisters. And also this transit of Venus in the communication sector means that if there's been a feud, and it's getting in the way of things, you can settle that feud, or that feud can just get resolved. It doesn't necessarily have to be you that goes wading in, but just be like receptive, because Venus will help you to do that. Venus will soften things. Also, if it's to do with other things like negotiations, you can do very well because you come across well, you can be persuasive, you can negotiate well. And Venus bodes well for success in buying, selling, promotions, funding. It underpins all of that stuff. It underpins fluent communications and people skills as well. Now Jupiter enters this area, rolls in there on the 12th, and will stay for 12 months. So that's altogether good news for you. It means that you will be on quite a learning curve, I think, over that time, maybe connecting up with a lot of new people. And during that long transit, you will be learning new stuff in the area of media, communications in general, study, education, and creative self-expression. So that's kind of that in a nutshell, but there's a lot more to it. And then there's also going to be a lunar eclipse on the 4th, which heralds new beginnings in all those areas that I've been mentioning. And you're going to have Mercury coming into this area as well for a week, and that means that your mental focus will very much be communications orientated. So the paperwork, the correspondence on the phone, the computer, just more mental work, or instructions, maybe form filling, or maybe it's going to be more creative. It depends on where you're at in your life. And some of this mental energy may be focusing upon getting out and about more, communications, equipment, vehicles, transport or travel. And when I say getting out and about more, I mean through the communications equipment. Try to avoid getting scattered or nervy during that first week there, though, because you might get a little bit like that. It rules the nervous system, but just learn to let go long enough to still your mind, touch base with yourself, know that you are held and you are supported, even though most of the time you can't feel it and you can't see it, but it's there. Then from the 7th to the 26th, thoughts may turn to property, base of operations, or your private life, where you're anchored inside, how you're feeling. So your feelings might be a bit nearer the surface at that time. There might have to be more attention given to members of the family, or a member of the family. Or perhaps it's more out in just the locality, the neighbourhood, or it can be a community over the wires as well. But a more sociable time, probably right in your own backyard and not very far away. And then from the 26th, Mercury is in a more entertainment-orientated part of your solar chart, which means that you could be thinking more creatively, thinking in a more upbeat kind of a way, more relaxed, playful kind of way for some of you, or having more access to entertainment, or it can be you've got more interaction and conversation with young people, children, and also interchange with animals as well, because of course we can dialogue with animals as well. So Mars, now Mars, your ruling planet, has been in this hugely long transit, very unusual transit, since last November, in an area which is to do with very basic stuff. It's service orientated, it's health orientated, it's around the job as well, it's around learning skills and using skills. So it can be quite niggly and detailed, and it's there for 1 month more. It comes out in the first week of July. So its potential has been huge, that you could have got a lot of stuff sorted out and get things evened out in the way that you want them to be on these basic levels over these many months. But some of you may be having more to do with service providers, people who serve in the community, could be, you know, medical people, or social type people, social worker type people, or it can have been something else completely. But just to say that you might have felt a little tense, at times you might have felt like the people, you know, petty officials, shall we say, petty bureaucracy is just so slow, and it's got it wrong, and so it can have been like that, and you're waiting for that letter to arrive, or for them to process something. So it can have been like that, and you've been a little tense and feeling a little narked. I don't know if that's an American word, but narked at times. And then with Mars, your ruling planet, in that area there, though, you could have gotten on with a lot of daily chores. You could have been making improvements with health, but on the way, you know, there could have been a moment of conflict or two, and a frustration or two. The path would have been strewn with that. Workmates can have seemed annoying as well. Sometimes, but also you and a workmate kind of covered a lot of, you know, you kind of got a lot done, and if you were cooperating, and you could have benefited from their tools, their contribution in other ways, their venue, whatever it is, their knowledge, and if it has been about health, then health improving methods, you getting out there and taking the initiative with the diet, the exercise, the remedies, the therapy, you know. And you've got a month left of this to run. So now another thing about it is that you can have taken on too much, and you need to look after yourself more. So you need to use some of that Mars energy, not in all that outward frantic activity, but actually pull it all in to yourself, or perhaps not all, but enough of it into yourself, so you've got an even share, you know, and looking after, you know, number one, looking after you. Don't take on so much for others, even though you're good at doing that, Aries. And pacing yourself, being in the now with it all, because, you know, sometimes the body works a lot slower than you'd like it to do. And also it might have been about somebody else's health as well. So more maintenance and repairs could have been on your mind during, or just on the list during these months, and you having to get things organized, get things under control, get a space under control, or the health under control, striving to make sense of this or that or the other, and not taking on too much though. But definitely, it's time to take the initiative in all of those sorts of areas, as long as you're not hasty, and you you don't engage brain before mouth, or you don't engage brain before action when you've catapulted off the edge of the cliff and you're sailing through the abyss and you're thinking, no, wait a minute. So, yeah, be careful not to dive in head first. Now, from the 21st, the mental pace will tend to slow down, and the focus will be more, a little bit more relaxed and more upon home, family, or community, more in your own sort of stamping ground anyway. Or it might not be your own, it might be another base of operations, but it will tend to be more in a locality. Then it begins to come more into your own private bubble. Well, that's it for June, and if you like, you can go to my website if you're not there already, find the what's the slow-moving outer planets are doing. It's very important actually for you to know that if you don't know it already, because you've got a lot of Saturn, you've got a lot of Uranus, and you've got a lot of Pluto happening in a very strong way, coming into your sign, vibrationally speaking anyway. And you have to sort of put what I've said here together with that as a background, Aries. Also, if you'd like to find your rising sign or your moon sign, the forecast for those this month, take from it what you need and what makes sense, and chuck out the rest, and then you might just get a sort of a picture of what might be coming up over the next month. And I'll see you the next time.